For round 6 of the FIA GT3 European Championship, the teams are back in action here at Jarama near Madrid. We've already had one enthralling 60-minute race earlier on in the day. That was won on the very last lap by the Audi of Ben Hendelhofer and Kenneth Haar, the first Audi victory of the season. And the grid is lining up any moment ready for round 6 of the championship. There are the cars in the assembly area. And we have had, of course, a shuffle in the championship after the first race here of the day. And it means that although the championship lead remains for Christian Hoornadel and Daniel Kalvitz, Philip Geipel is second. The advantage that Hoornadel and Kalvitz have is greater because Geipel finished a long way back and Joachim Lambert and Mike Parisi didn't finish at all in the first race. Behind them, Prince Albert von Thurn on Taxis with his Lamborghini ahead of the absent Siso Cunil and Tim Bergmeister, with Dino Lenardi and Tony Zeiler next, and Manuel Rodriguez and Fred Makovici rounding out the leading point scorers after 5 rounds of the championship. And it's been very good for Corvette so far this season. Should have been even better though, because halfway round the last lap, we had a Corvette leader of the earlier race today, but at the end we had an Audi victory, and it was a fuel pump problem that prevented all the fuel from being picked up by Christian Hoornadel's car that meant that in the end he finished only in second place behind the Audi of Ben Hendelhofer and Kenneth Haar. The team hoping for better here. However, in order to get the lead in race 1, Christian Hoornadel had to be a bit forceful when he came up to pass Giorgio Sana's Lamborghini, and as a result of his rather forceful driving, he's been given a 5-place penalty on this grid, so he drops 5 places back from where he had qualified the car. This is David Addison along with Bruce Joanny in the commentary box. Abby Griffiths in the pit lane at Jarama. The cars making their way round onto the circuit now. Bruce, as ever in GT3, great variety in terms of cars, and this should be another great race.
Yeah, all those amazing cars all together competing between each other. I mean, we're seeing Ferraris overtaking Lamborghinis, Audis against Porsches, and those Corvettes with those amazing sounds all around this beautiful circuit in Jarama with the perfect conditions. It's really amazing, and we've seen a great first race with lots of overtaking, even though it's not easy around that track. So no, it's a great day today.
And it's a hard circuit to learn as well, and many of these drivers and the teams here for the first time, so they've had a lot to get used to in a short space of time.
Yeah, it's a very complicated track to learn, mostly because you've got at least 3 or 4 corners which are completely blind as you approach them. So yeah, it's complicated to know where you are on the circuit, which goes up and down, and it's hard on the cars as well, hard on the tires. You have to be hard on the brakes at the end of the straight, which is very, very long, and you reach very high top speeds around here, even though it's a small track. So no, plenty of action.
Here's a chance to see some of the cars. 10 different cars represented in the GT3 Championship. You've had a quick look at the Audis making their way round onto the grid, run by a number of different teams. Audi becoming a very popular model. Look there, you'll see the BMW Z4 making its way up onto the grid with the German lady racer Claudia Hürtgen behind the wheel for the first stint, and it's 2 drivers per car. There's a mandatory pit stop after 25 and before 35 minutes of the race, and the pit stop time, including pit in to pit out, has got to be 67 seconds. Any less than that and you'll get a stop-go penalty, as indeed Claudia Hürtgen did in the first race. Because their pit stop time was 1 second too short, they got a 1 second stop-go penalty. That's a car that led the first race. It's Martin Matschke that starts in race 2 in the BMW Alpina B6 GT3. Nicolas Meyer-Malnhof, his co-driver, was good early on. Then I'm afraid he had a big moment coming downhill to the Bugatti corner and put it in the gravel, so they'll be hoping for better in race 2. And the field's starting to take shape then, ready for 60 minutes of racing from a rolling start. The championship, as I say, being led by the Corvette drivers, Daniel Kalvitz and Christian Hoornadel, who had a win at Silverstone, and we thought they were on for a second victory of the season here. The car that won race 1 is going to start only 19th on the grid for this second race. Kenneth Haar is going to be the man that starts it. Ben Hendelhofer will take over, and it's going to be intriguing to see how that car makes its way, if at all possible, up the order. In most cases for this race, you've got the quicker driver doing the first stint, and so it's going to be in the second stint really when we get the slower drivers in to see what the order is going to be for the finish. There's the BMW Z4, Claudia Hürtgen behind the wheel, and this is a car that's making great strides forward race by race. She shares it with the Hungarian driver Csaba Walter, and Claudia Hürtgen, who was a very quick Formula 3 racer going back to the early 1990s. Good to have her back racing in GT cars and going as quickly as ever. So she's ready for business, and that car starting on the second row of the grid. It's Porsche on pole, it's Corvette second, it's BMW third, and then Aston Martin fourth, Audi fifth, and Corvette sixth, showing you the variety. There's the car that's sixth on the grid. Dino Lenardi, former Peugeot Spider champion, is going to start. Although yesterday, in qualifying for this race, he blotted his copybook a bit. Under a yellow flag, he went off into the gravel. Yeah, he went off into the gravels. I saw him again spinning once more into the qualifying, so not such a good qualifying yesterday from him. And the reason that the yellow flag was out, that was the one under which Dino Lenardi spun, was for this car. Michael Ammermuller had gone off at turn 1 and plonked it into the gravel bed. Michael Ammermuller, another quick single-seater racer who's turned his attention to GT racing this year. and he will start 5th on the grid in the car that he shares with Paolo Bonifacio. They were 8th in the earlier race today. The car making its way onto the outside of the front row. You can see there the Corvette, double winner at Brno. Mike Parisi will start, but it was a retirement from the earlier race because of an engine problem. So it's there on the grid now. Fingers crossed that all is well for that team. There's one car that we know is going to be missing, sadly, from the back of the grid, the Ford Mustang, which has got a homologation issue with its roll bar, so that'll be missing. Number 60 Porsche is there. Marcus Paltela will go first, and the tin foil, it looks like, there to try and deflect some of the heat away from the driver, because it's going to be very, very hot in these cars.
Yeah, it's very hot, and the sun is the main thing that keeps the temperature into the cars behind the windows, and you have to try to save the driver's health as much as you can, because the more water they're going to lose, the more sweat they're going to sweat, basically, the harder it's going to be for them, and it's a long race.
We saw the Ford GT a moment ago, Christopher Nygaard starting in that car. Greg Franchi, the Belgian former Formula 3 racer, is there on the 4th row of the grid in the car that he shares with Stefan Lemray. It retired from race 1 with accident damage. The Hexis AMR Aston Martin, Luc Paillard sharing number 2 with the very quick young French driver Thomas Akari, and Thomas will do the first stint in the number 2 Hexis AMR car, a team that also has a GT1 involvement, and he's doing well with a race win at Silverstone, and that car is going to line up alongside the Audi R8 LMS, but that's the Paolo Bonifacio Michael Ammermuller car that's a row further forward. As I say, they were 8th in race 1, and Michael Ammermuller will go first. And the Audi, a very popular car in the championship this year. There are far more of them, it seems, than last year, and at the expense of one or two other notable GT brands like Ferrari, of which there are just 2 represented on the grid, and Porsche picking up in number once again. Corvette's had a good start to the season with 3 race wins. Not yet a win for this car, though. Dino Lenardi starting, shared with the man whose team it is, Tony Zeiler, the experienced Swiss racer. Dino Lenardi there, strapped in, ready for business. And the grid starting to be cleared in readiness for the rolling start. There's the BMW Z4. Great looking car, that.
Yes, great looking car. Very small, all packed up together, but a really strong engine as well, with an amazing sound. Surprising for such a little car, actually. And there you go, you see the outside of the Aston Martin from Exis Racing. I was talking to the team manager a little bit earlier today, and they said they're struggling around this track because the car doesn't really like the tight corners and doesn't really like the bumpy tracks.
It starts on the 4th rank on the grid. This is the car, though, that's on pole position. Marco Holzer starting in Paul van Spluntern's Porsche that retired from race 1 with accident damage when Paul van Splunteren was driving it. Marco Holzer, very, very quick young German driver who was a podium finisher in GT2 at Le Mans a week ago, is going to be one to watch in the opening stint. And Mike Parisi, double winner at Brno with Joachim Lambert, starting in the Corvette for Graf Racing on the outside of row 1. 3rd in the championship, double winners. The reigning French GT3 champion. Thumbs up from Mike Parisi. So he was confident after qualifying. The team is confident. Thumbs up from them, pointing to Mike Parisi's crash helmet. This is the man, they say, that's going to do the business. Well, let's see as the field is lined up and ready to go for 60 minutes of racing. Round 6 of the FIA GT3 European Championship. There is Marco Holzer's Porsche on pole position. So Porsche versus Corvette on the front of the grid, but certainly the first laps of this race are going to be very dramatic indeed, with the faster driver, the gun driver, in the majority of cars. The teams making their way now off the grid, and as soon as everyone is away, then the cars are going to be released onto this final warming up lap. Let's take a look, though, at how the field lines up. Pole position is going to be the Porsche of Marco Holzer to start, the car that he shares with Paul van Splunteren, and alongside is Mike Parisi with Joachim Lambert in the Corvette. The second row is the BMW Z4. Claudia Hurtgen goes first, and Fred Makovici in the quicker of the 2 Hexis AMR Aston Martins alongside. Row 3, Michael Ammermuller's Audi, Dino Lenardi in the Corvette, and then behind them is Greg Franchi's Audi and Thomas Akari in the second of the Aston Martins. Then Marcus Paltela for Porsche and Christopher Nygaard's Ford GT. 10th on the grid. Then we go back to the penalised Christian Hernadel, who will start the Corvette alongside Edward Sandstrom, whose BMW crashed out of race 1. Gilles Vanelay starts the Porsche for 13th on the grid, and Martin Matschke's BMW is 14th. Then it's former champion Arnaud Perrault's Corvette, and Bruce Legereroux with the Audi for 16th on the grid. Christo Jons went well in race 1. He starts 17th, and Diego Alessi a long way back, but he was 3rd in race 1. The race 1 winners are 19th on the grid. Kenneth Heyer goes first, and then Charlie Hollings in the Ferrari, out qualifying Zach Brown's Audi. Giorgio Sana in the Lamborghini, 22nd on the grid, a car that led race 1. Then it's Philip Geipel's Porsche and Mike Gouache in the second of the United Autosports Audi R8 LMSs. Marius Ritschke's next for the Corvette. Sean Breslin Sr. with the Audi R8, 26th on the grid. And missing from the back is going to be, sad to say, the Ford Mustang after its homologation issue. So we're just about ready to go for the green flag lap. And the grid is cleared. Everybody is ready. The marshals scamper away at the back. The teams clamber over the pit wall. And the safety car in a moment will lead them away. And the drivers then, one or two still with the doors open, desperately trying to get some more fresh air into the cars, getting ready then for 60 minutes of racing. And that's the view from the Aston Martin number 2, Thomas Akari, behind the wheel. And Thomas Akari, a very, very quick driver. He's been a runner-up in this championship twice in the past, so he certainly knows what he's doing. But the Aston Martin just not quite as competitive this year. So the pace car leads them away. It could be one more lap around, and then the cars, hopefully a tidier start than we had in race 1. They got 2 formation laps because it was all a bit messy. Hopefully just 1 this time, and then we'll be into the race. So Marco Holzer accelerates away from pole position in the Pro Speed competition. Porsche with Mike Parisi in the Corvette with him on the front of the grid. Then the BMW of Claudia Hürtgen. As I say, these 10 different cars represented within the championship, and all the main supercar brands are there.
It's going to be interesting also to see what the Gallardo is going to do, because the Gallardo was leading the race and started from pole position in the first race.
And let's hear from the co-driver of the pole position car, Paul van Splunteren. He's with Abby Griffiths.
So Paul, Marco's going out from pole. It'd be great if he did a really good first part so that you've just got to defend.
That's the idea, because this morning we were a bit unlucky. I was in 5th position, and the Audi cut in a bit short, and I was a bit, late, so we missed it out on 2 meters, and I hit him. And that was the end of our race. I think we could have been on the podium this morning. So given our qualifying position, I hope that we can capitalize on this one.
And Paul, how do you adjust to that when something like that happens? How do you get your confidence back?
Well, first of all, I analyze, is it really my fault or is it a race incident? It was a race incident. I looked at the data and said, okay, this happened. So I have to, say goodbye to it and get on to the next race. And now we have to do our best.
Okay, go for it. Thank you.
Holland's leading Porsche dealer, Paul van Splunteren, and having begun racing many, many years ago, he had about a decade away to build up his business, and he's come back and he's very busy. GT3 and GT4, raced a GT2 Porsche at Le Mans, so if there's a weekend he can go racing, he'll find something to drive, will Paul van Splunteren, but it's down to his co-driver, Marco Holzer, for the first stint. They've had a pretty unlucky year, I'm afraid. At Silverstone, Paul put the car off as well, and so they're only 17th equal in the championship. They could do with a good haul of points out of this second race. Good to see Porsche going so well again in GT3. Sean Edwards was the first GT3 champion back in 06. Since then, the cars just have not been quick enough, and so it's good to have them back at the front once again. But the Corvette looking ominously good around here once more. Mike Parisi doing the starting stint in the Graf Racing car, number 16. So almost towards the end now of this rolling lap. Great section of the circuit this, Bruce, as they plunge downhill very, very fast and then into this heavy braking zone.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that they're not really into a pack.
You're right.
The safety car should slow down a little bit to make sure that they're side by side before they go. And yeah, they start to be side by side, but again, they're not going to be all packed up well enough. We'll see if they have a second green flag lap or if the start is going to be given.
They're still strung out a long, long way around the circuit. You're looking there at Fred Makovici, who had a trip through the gravel in the first race, but I'm just waiting to see whether or not we are going to get a clean start this time. The safety car driver will no doubt be being told by the race director to back it up a little bit and try and get everyone into this Noah's Ark 2x2 side-by-side formation. And as they turn now through the last right-hander of Tunnel, the pace car is going to hopefully dive for the pit lane, and it doesn't. Again, the race director is unhappy, and so yes, he is going to come in. There he is. So this time we do get the green flag. It was a late decision, but the safety car peels off. The race gets underway now. Look at Claudia Hürtgen going to the inside of the BMW. Marco Holzer moves across to the Porsche. Holzer leads down towards Fangio for the first time, but on the outside line, Matt Parisi in the Corvette tries to find a way through as this €1 million grid thunders under the camera there through the right-hander. It is Marco Holzer that leads. In second place is Claudia Hürtgen in the BMW, and Mike Parisi hung out to dry on the outside. He's going to drop back into fourth place because there's Fred Makovici in the Aston Martin going up on the inside. Thomas Akari is fifth in the second Aston, and that's Dino Lunardi, I think, being elbowed out onto the grass. But a good start by Holzer, a great start by Claudia Hürtgen to go second.
Great start by Claudia Hürtgen, who kept the inside. She really wanted to dive a bit more on the inside. Oh, lots of understeer here inside of the Aston Martin. Yeah, Holzer, nothing to say, perfect start. Hürtgen, brilliant start, and the Aston Martins are up there.
So going better than they did at the comparable stage in race 1. They've got the quicker drivers on board, and also don't rule out the other Pro Speed Porsche with Marcus Palter at the wheel as the cars file through. Expect the Ferraris to make a bit more progress over this first stint if they can, as the field then turns its way up around the top of the circuit for the first time, out of Portago, then downhill. They'll go towards Bugatti in a moment, which is that downhill left-hander section there. 25 is Giorgio Sana, who led race 2 until he got a little bit of contact and was tapped out of the race lead. He then had another spin induced by the Diego Alessi driven Ferrari at the time. He wants to make
the
amends.
BMW on the inside.
Yeah, that's brave.
Oh, yeah, that's very brave. And he makes it. I think he makes it, yes. Oh, they're side by side, still going to the last corner.
That's Bruce Logereau, isn't it? He's trying to get past in the Audi, and Bruce stands his ground. He's got the inside line there. So on the outside, the number 9 BMW being started by Martin Matschke has to give way. There's also the Porsche looking pretty menacing in that group as well as they sprint their way up towards the end of the lap. Gilles Vannelet looking to gain ground. The leaders accelerate their way past the pits and running wide there. The Ferrari kicking up the dirt. That was Diego Alessi. The green BMW then thunders past the pits, trying to go for the outside line down towards turn 1. Into the braking zone. It's a bumpy braking zone for that corner, and has the BMW done so? I think he's gained a place. Yep, Martin Matschke goes through and round the outside, tries to go Vannelet's Porsche. Great battling this.
Yeah, Gilles Vannelet made the move as well around the outside of Bruce Logereau inside of the Porsche. The Audi's been overtaken, and now there's a Ferrari right behind him, trying to make on the inside, but no, Bruce Logereau is defending.
And this is what GT3 is all about, different pace of drivers, but all of these different cars with their different size of engine, different weight, all being competitive against one another. And it takes quite a lot of orchestrating, but the formula works. And so you've got Porsche versus BMW versus Aston Martin versus Corvette for the lead, and those four virtually together now. Claudia Hürtgen going better than ever in the Z4. Look at this, what a spectacle as the four leaders wriggle their way around the top of the lap now. But Fred Makovici in third place in the silver and black Aston Martin is looking very menacing, and so too fourth in the Corvette is Mike Parisi.
Yes, Claudia Hürtgen, who was actually right in the tail of the young German driver Marco Holzer inside of the Porsche, and she made a little mistake, but she's catching again. Fred Makovici having a lot of work inside of the Aston Martin, because a lot of work on the steering wheel, and now he has to defend as well the Corvette and Joachim Lambot. Is it Lambot or Parisi?
It's Parisi for the
it's
first
Parisi,
stint,
sorry, yeah, Parisi inside of the green, pink and grey Corvette just here that we're following.
It's not very Corvette colours, but it's an effective paint scheme. You can recognise it a mile away as across the line goes Mike Parisi. Then he's chasing after Fred Mako. The gap between the leaders is down to 0.4. Claudia Hürtgen then has done the best lap of the race in her pursuit of Marco Holzer. So the young German driver now having to look to his mirrors, because the experienced German racer Claudia Hürtgen is right there behind him. And a great battle going on for fifth place now. We've got Thomas Akari just ahead of Marcus Paltela. There, Aston Martin ahead of Porsche. The next of the Audis is Michael Ammermuller, doing his level best to get onto terms, but we've still got really a four-way fight for leadership. The Porsche cannot pull away.
You know what I think is that the Z4 is probably the only car with Dunlop, and that the Dunlop tire in those conditions is maybe just having a bit of an advantage. Maybe the rubber is a bit harder, the compound being a bit different, and survives better with this temperature and the very abrasive track. As we're having a look at the start again, Marco Holzer, very good start. Mike Parisi trying to squeeze the BMW on the inside, but she stays there. We're having a look again. There's probably 3 cars side by side everywhere along the grid.
Claudia Hürtgen dodging one way and then the other. There's a Corvette to one side, there's a Porsche in the way and a pit wall as well. There's not much room for her.
No, they were all very close to the wall on their right side. And everybody made it through. Everybody made it through the first corner, and it's such a narrow corner, and you're approaching it so fast that it's a good effort from all of them.
So this is the four-way fight for leadership. Fred Makovici in third place in the Aston Martin. Ahead, Claudia Hürtgen. Behind is Mike Parisi. Across the line they come then. It's still the Porsche of Marco Holzer that leads the way, but another best lap of the race by Claudia Hürtgen, then bettered by Fred Makovici. The Aston Martin in third, now lapping quicker than anything else out there. That means that he's trying to edge away from Mike Parisi, and he's just closing a little onto the second place car. So the Porsche leading the way, Marco Holzer. BMW second, Claudia Hürtgen. Third, Aston Martin, Fred Makovici. Fourth is the Corvette of Mike Parisi. Fifth, the Aston Martin of Akari. Sixth, the Porsche of Marcus Paltela. Seventh is Michael Ammermuller's Audi. Eighth, the Corvette of Hernadel. Ninth, the Corvette of Dino Lenardi. And 10th is the Ford GT of Christopher Nygaard. And you can see lower down the order, Audi's of Bruce Logereau a long way back for him in 16th place ahead of former champion Arnaud Peyroll. And Philippe Geipel, the man that's currently second in the championship, having his first outing in a Porsche, also struggling to make progress. So the cars accelerating their way now as you look at 23, which is Zach Brown doing the opening stint in the United Autosports Audi. He's coming under pressure at the moment because he's got Giorgio Sana there behind him in the Lamborghini, and again Giorgio's line through that corner is a bit random.
Yeah, to say the least. And the car in front of the United Autosport Audi struggling as well, going into the corners a little bit sideways. Too hard on the brakes in those very tight corners, and you've got an Audi followed by a Lamborghini followed by a Corvette, another Audi and a Corvette.
And this is the battle for 21st place, okay? 21st is the United Autosports Audi. 22nd is the Lamborghini that led race 1. 23rd is the Audi of Kenneth Heyer, which won race 1. And there it is at the moment, down in 23rd place. So Ben Hendelhofer, when he takes over, is going to have to be a real star to drag that car up the order. Leaders come across the line, and Claudia Hürtgen, with another best lap of the race, gets even closer to Marco Holzer. The Porsche leads the BMW as they go down towards the little left-hand kink at Nuvolari and then go right through Fangio. And the two come out still tied together. What can Claudia Hürtgen do now to find a way past? There's not that much room around here, but she's such an experienced driver. Marco Holzer just cannot pull away.
She does a brilliant job. Huh? She was only 100 quicker. Oh, and she's side by side, and she's trying to overtake. He's in a difficult position, being on the inside there. She could have a better exit than him, but he's defending on the inside, on the exit. Sorry. Whoa, she's very impressive, huh? It's the first time that I'm... Ooh, there's a bird right in the middle of the track. Up.
Wildlife soon scarpers. Porsche dodges around the bird, and Marco Holzer then still leading the way. Claudia Hürtgen in second place, but that little drama they had when they were overlapping means that now Fred Makovici is much, much closer. So Porsche, BMW, Aston Martin and Corvette, the leading four as they come towards us. Marco Holzer having to defend pretty resolutely, but Claudia Hürtgen here reminding people just how good she is. And this is where it all began as Marco Holzer ran wide and Claudia Hürtgen got up alongside, but then the outside line for the next corner.
Yes, she was at the wrong place for the next corner, and there isn't much she could have done. Just trying to benefit from Marco Holzer's mistake. The only place where she's not quite as fast as Marco Holzer, it's completely on the other side of the track, at the top of the hill. At the fast chicane there, the car seems a little bit unstable, but everywhere else she's quicker than him. So is she going to find a place to try to overtake?
He goes across the line, he's quicker again, so the gap is down to just 0.3 of a second. Marco Holzer defending, Claudia Hürtgen desperately hunting for the inside line, but still she can't find a way through. Makovici is third, Mike Parisi is in fourth place, and he's lapping quicker than the three ahead of him now, so the Corvette coming into the picture. We're on to lap number 6, and we're getting a report that number 3, the car that won race 1, Kenneth Heyer's Audi, is slowly making its way back to the pit lane. So disappointment for the race 1 winners, but Claudia Hürtgen has another go to try and get alongside Marco Holzer's Porsche, but to no avail. Marco defending well, but the BMW looking so quick through that corner.
Yeah, the car is very agile through there. Oh,
that's Arnaud Perol, isn't it, who's gone off in the other Graf Racing Corvette at turn number 1 at Fangio, and Grégoire de Moustier did the same thing but was able to drive out of the gravel in race 1. Arnaud Perol, former champion, looks like he's well and truly stuck now. Claudia Hürtgen coming under pressure for second place. Fred Makovici onto the tail. The Aston Martin then right on the back of the BMW Z4 as they accelerate downhill once again. And that little battle for second, if it builds, is going to help Marco Holzer just edge away slightly.
Yes, but then anytime they're going into a tight corner like this one, up, she's fast again, and she pulls away, and she catches Marco Holzer, as you can see. The only place where she should try to change slightly her line, it's on the other side of the track, but the result, or the reason why, sorry, ooh, Gilles Vanley.
No, it's the sister car, I think. Philip Geipel's car. Yes, it is.
Sorry.
Philip Geipel,
yep,
who's got damage on the front. So in only his second ever race in a Porsche, I'm afraid it's ended up in the barrier. And the radiator of the car is quite close to the front, so he may well have damaged that, hence the overheating. He's out of the race as the leaders go across the line then. Yellow flag being waved vigorously because of the car off in the gravel at turn 1. It is still Marco Holzer leading, and of course Claudia Hürtgen unable to find a way through. The marshals take a step back as they go past Arnaud Perol, so out of the yellow flag zone. And the race leader, Marco Holzer, continues to hold sway. Fred Makovici's just dropped back a little bit, hasn't he, there in
yes,
that third place?
Yep, I think the Aston Martin is suffering a little bit from the heat. We're having a look at the back at the crash. Oh la la, yeah, that's what I thought. The Corvette's rear right wheel is detached from the car.
And those are your race 1 winners, I'm afraid. Kenneth Heyer and Ben Hendelhofer out of the race. Very disappointing. Kenneth Heyer about to take his crash helmet off. So we had that report the car was slow, and that's it. You can tell, game over. So disappointment for Team Rosberg. 1 win and an early retirement here at Jarama.
Yep. Back to the leaders with Claudia Hürtgen still right in the tail of Marco Holzer. Basically, it's completely mechanical grip that she has, much better than the cars around her. That's why into the slow corners you see that she's so much faster, and the mechanical grip comes from the car on one side, but mostly from the tires. I think that Dunlop are doing very well today.
Yeah, there are 2 BMW Z4s, and they are the only cars on Dunlop rubber. Everybody else on Michelin, and you can see again Claudia Hürtgen winding herself up now to have a run onto the pit straight and see what she can do about the Porsche going into turn 1. Fred Makovici in 3rd place in the Aston Martin, and then in 4th is Mike Parisi's Corvette. Marco Holzer then still leads the way, the man that won the Formula BMW World Final a few years ago, into the yellow flag zone once again, which means no overtaking. So out of turn 1 goes the race leader, the BMW closing again, but let's hear from a frustrated Kenneth Hart. He's with Abby.
Kenneth, after a brilliant win in race 1, how disappointed to come out so early in race 2?
The car was quite good, like in the first race, and I was on the way forward, climbed 6 or 7 positions. But I think we have a problem with the clutch or something like that, so it makes no sense to drive.
Okay, so, disappointment, sorry.
Yeah, so it's racing, yeah?
A very philosophical Kenneth Hart, a win and a retirement. So it's been a very mixed day for him, but that win will be a very sweet one as the leaders come past a stricken Porsche, Philippe Geipel, who switched from Lamborghini to Porsche for this weekend, going no further. Mike Parisi just dropping away a little bit in 4th place. Battle on for 6th still, where Marcus Paltela's Porsche is ahead now. This Corvette battle there. Dino Lenardi gets up alongside Christian Hernadel and goes through. Dino Lenardi is making good progress. He's gained 2 places, in fact, since the start of the lap.
Yes, good. He's struggling to put the power back down, and he's... Whoa! Even in 4th gear, those cars, they have so much power that it's hard to control. You have to be steady on the throttle, hard on the brakes, using all the track. Dino Lenardi does a good job there. Oh, see, whoa, sliding the car all around the exit of the corner and back into the penultimate corner there, back onto the throttle. And this last curve is taken flat. It's not really a curve, and we're back with the wheelers.
And it's still Marco Holzer being able to keep Claudia Hürtgen at bay. That gap is only 0.3 of a second. I think a lot of this now is going to come down to the pace of the second driver when Paul van Splinteren takes on Shaba Bolter. In 3rd place, Fred Makovici. Manuel Rodriguez's co-driver is experienced, but he's not as quick by any means as Fred Mako is. And we've lost Michael Ammermoller out on that lap because the car that was in the top 10 has not yet come by. It has now way down in 16th, so Ammermoller has had a problem. And the incident between Philippe Geipel, which has caused him to stop out on the track, and Arnaud Peyrolle, whose Corvette we'd seen in the gravel, is under investigation. So the steward's having a look at that. And we've got now Thomas Ackery working overtime in the Aston Martin.
We're on board, 3rd gear, 4th gear before the left kick uphill, and 5th gear inside of the corner, kind of short shifting, and 6th. Wow, the car is rolling so much and you can't take the corner flat. That's pretty amusing. I had never seen an onboard camera from a GT3. Ooh, with lots of understeer, and you see how he slides the car on the exit, controlling the oversteer from the car, and drifts the car out because there's so much power. Boop, not flat downhill. Over the curb, you have to cut the corner as much as you can, and hard on the brakes, down the gears, as we just saw.
Got his track map on the centre of the steering wheel as well, so he knows where he's going. Thomas Ackery in the number 2 Aston Martin in 5th place. That's his teammate, Fred Makovici, 3rd, and he's dropped back a bit from the 2 leaders this time. Mike Parisi is still there in 4th, ready to hand the car over to Joachim Lambert, and those 2 drivers pretty evenly matched as Fred Mako runs really wide, going through Tunnel there, bounces over the curb and onto the dirt and loses more time to the top 2.
Yes, just a few hundreds thrown away, and Claudia again still pressing, putting the pressure onto Marco Holzer, but she can't find a way past. Marco Holzer being very consistent, not doing many mistakes, or none actually, just one that we saw earlier on.
Back on board with Thomas Ackery, remember 5th he is in the Hexus AMR Aston Martin, doing his best now to get onto terms with Mike Parisi. Now that he's shaken off the pack behind it, he doesn't have to defend anymore, he can concentrate on trying to catch. As we look at this Audi battle, Bruce Logereau just going ahead there of Christophe Jons. 2 similar cars run by different teams, and ahead of them is Diego Alessi, 3rd in race 1, but really struggling at the moment, down in 14th place in the Ferrari.
That's amazing. But there's an all good bunch where the driver's level is very good in this first part of the race. You can see the Ferrari not so agile in these very Mickey Mouse corners.
And the green BMW up into the top 10 now. It is Martin Matschke doing the first stint before Nicholas Meyer-Mellenhoff takes over. That's the 2nd BMW Z4, coming under huge pressure as well, because you can see now the car in the hands of Edward Sandstrom being given a hard time by Greg Franchi, who lost out on the start, didn't he, because he was on the 4th row, but is way back in 12th place now. So Greg Franchi losing places early on, and then behind is Gilles Vanillet in the surviving Milner Motorsport Porsche. We've seen one already retire in the hands of Philippe Geipel, and Gilles Vanillet, the car he shares with Joe Osborne, creeping up there. You can see it in the background onto the tail of the Greg Franchi driven Audi. The second of those BMW Z4s, therefore, running in 11th place. Another good, solid performance. And that car has also done relatively little running this weekend. It crashed out of race 1, had a crash in qualifying, so in free practice, missed the first qualifying session. Yep. So they've been playing catch-up all weekend, really.
Yes, they've got a very little number of laps with their arms. So, yeah, he's catching up and he's doing quite a good job at the moment. As we are having
that's the
BMW that was doing very well and who was into the top 10 is now off and stuck in the gravels.
Yeah, Martin Matschke from 10th place. He's in the gravel, but his co-driver went off into the gravel in race 1. Now Martin Matschke has done the same, but he's so far off, I don't think that's going to go very far. He can try pushing it, but it's a big, big, heavy car, this, and not even 3 Spanish marshals are going to be able to move that, I think. Nope.
No way.
Need a snatch vehicle, please. That's going nowhere.
Yes, and that's a big loss of time. Yeah, the car is buried into the gravels.
And losing places, of course, everyone else comes filing through. And if the car is able to rejoin, having been snatched out of the gravel, it's going to be a long way down. This, the race leader, Marco Holzer, then still being given a hard time. Looked by Claudia Hürtgen as they drop downhill, but Marco Holzer accelerating now for the 11th time up towards the top of the hill where he goes to this double apex right-hander of Monza, and despite the efforts of Claudia Hürtgen, he's been able to withstand everything. He's not been able to pull away, but he's stood his ground and he's maintained the advantage.
Yes, she's really, really close to him, but the Porsche is very fast in the straight. The BMW, and we've got a United Autosport Audi.
And that's the team boss, that's Zach Brown, isn't it? 23.
Yes.
Great, the American, yeah.
It's finished for him.
It is. The car that he shares with Matt Bell, and the burlier frame of Zach Brown gets out of the car. Disappointment, so another yellow flag on the run down towards the first corner. And Marco Holzer continues to lead the way then. Claudia Hürtgen chases on in second place. But is she going to be able to find a way through, or is the outcome of this really going to be decided on the pit stops?
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be at the pit stops because Marco Holzer is very consistent, not doing any mistakes. And Claudia Hürtgen doesn't seem to find any window to try to make a move.
Marco Holzer, the 21-year-old, had a very good karting pedigree in Germany. He went to Formula BMW in 05. He was the world final winner in Bahrain. Then he switched to Formula 3 racing, but it's in the last few seasons where he's been busy racing Porsches in the German Carrera Cup and in the assorted GT championships around the world that he really has become something of a star in this type of car. He was the youngest man on the grid at Le Mans this year, and he leads this race with his co-driver Paul van Splunderen now getting himself ready to take over. The pit window, remember, is open after 25 minutes of the race until the 35th minute of the race, and a 67-second pit stop mandatory for everybody. And with most of these drivers we're looking at being quicker than their co-drivers, they will stay out for as long as they possibly can. And Claudia Hürtgen making another bid for leadership here, but Marco Holzer is able to hang on in the lead as Zach Brown trudges back to the pits. At least he's not got a very long walk because it was on the way to the first corner that the car stopped. But big frustration. 9th on the grid for race 1, best qualifying effort of the year for the United Autosports team, but a retirement in race 2. Bad way to end the weekend. Here come the leaders, and Claudia Hürtgen once again trying to get onto the tail of the Porsche. So evenly matched, these cars. It's just so difficult for her to find those last 0.3 of a second. 0.3 sounds like nothing, but that's what's preventing her from getting into a challenging position against the Porsche.
I wonder if she was leading and she hasn't got Marco Holzer in front of her, how much quicker she could be able to lap. But she's right into his tail, arriving into the Le Mans corner, being very, very close. Actually, she has to back off a little bit not to bump into him. And the car is very stable, keeps the tires alive very well. And oh, she's so close to him, so close. It's a shame that she can't find her way pass. She does well. We'll see what happens after the pit stop. Another 5 minutes before the window is going to open.
And Zach Brown out of the race is in the pit lane with Abby.
Zach, disappointment for you and Matt Bell. What happened?
Well, we started off having gearbox problems. We got a decent start. We were fighting really hard and kept coming out of gear, kept going back in gear, so I think our race was kind of over then, but we were going to continue and see if we can fix it during the pit stop. And then I just had a massive tire blowout coming down the front straight, which was quite a moment. I think my heart rate's coming down now, but it was almost a big one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty good save that, wasn't it, considering?
Yep, yeah. Not bad. Luckily he didn't bang into the wall, he kept it together in a straight line and parked the car.
And is out of the race, so he walks back to the pits, but the second car that the team is running is in 19th place at the moment. It's being driven by Mike Gouache in the first stint. Mark Patterson takes over. The leading gap, though, has doubled over that last lap around Jarama. We've done 13 laps. The gap is 0.6 of a second now. And we have had the first 20 minutes of the hour complete. third place Fred Makovici. Now what about Mike Parisi there in fourth place in the Corvette? He's just falling away a little bit, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just following the rhythm. He can't do much. He's now 4 seconds and a half behind Marco Holzer, so basically lapping half a second slower than the leader, but lapping a little bit quicker than Fred Mako, so it could be interesting. He could make his way back and try to attack the Aston Martin. We'll see what happens in a few laps.
Christopher Nygaard, you just got a glimpse of in the Ford GT at the back of that quartet, pushing on. Ahead of him is Dino Lenardi, ahead of Lenardi is Hernadel, and Marcus Paltel's Porsche is currently in 6th place. The classification you can see along the bottom of the screen, it's Porsche ahead of BMW, ahead of Aston Martin, ahead of Corvette in the leading 4, Aston Martin 5th, and then this battle you're looking at, Porsche 6, Corvette 7, Corvette 8, and then 9th is the Ford GT, and the second BMW Z4 is in 10th place. Marcus Paltel feeling the pressure as well. Christian Hernadel starting further back on the grid than he qualified because of that penalty that he earned himself in race 1. And Marcus Paltel, who was another driver at Le Mans a week ago in the Ford GT, standing his ground as he drops downhill. He's going to hand that Porsche over to Petri Lapalainen, who is not as quick as Marcus Paltel. In the pit lane, of course, we've got the teams getting ready to effect the pit stops, drivers getting suited and booted, crash helmets going on. So before long we're going to start to have cars heading for the pit lane. Claudia Hurtgen has done the best lap of the race. She's still there in second position, but this Porsche now having to be so defensive. Marcus Paltel under massive pressure from Christian Hernadel.
Yes, Christian Hernadel, who was leading most of the race this morning, who finally got overtaken on the last lap and is now making his way up into the field, putting the pressure on the Porsche in front of him. He's himself driving the Corvette, and he has another Corvette behind him driven by Dino Lenardi, the French driver, and he's pushing the Porsche, getting closer and closer. And here they go still into the first sector, into the Le Mans corner, which is very tight and fun to drive, very cambered corner, and you have to drive over the curbs, which are completely flat, and he's trying to make a move, getting very close on the Porsche, nearly contact there.
And that's the corner at which there was contact between Hernadel and Giorgio Sana's Lamborghini in the first race, but Christian Hernadel not getting too cavalier just there, slots back in behind as they crest the rise then, now going up towards Ascari. And in the pit lane, drivers getting ready. Pit stops are imminent here at Jarama. Although how many of the cars are going to come in at the start of the window, I shouldn't think there are that many. As I say, in most cases, you've got the quicker driver who will stay out for as long as is possible. Good little battle here going on for 18th and 19th places, with Marius Ritschkes just ahead of Mike Gouache, Corvette ahead of the surviving United Autosports Audi. Everywhere you look, there's a battle going on at the moment. In fact, just ahead of them is Giorgio Sana there in the Lamborghini that led race 1, but it needs, I think, Prince Albert von Thurn Taxis to get into that car so it can work its magic again.
Yes, he did very well in the first race, and the drivers are ready, thumbs up, ready to go and fight. And another battle there going on between the Ferrari and two Audis right in the tail of the Ferrari. Ferrari struggling a little bit in the corners but goes away in the straight. I think it's Bruce Logereau looking at the place to overtake.
Yeah, Diego Alessi is in the Ferrari, Bruce Logereau is in number 5, the Audi in the middle of this sandwich, and then Christo Jons is next up as the cars come up towards the completion of lap number 15. Is the Audi of Bruce Logereau going to make a move? No, because in a straight line, so the Ferrari pulls away again.
Yes, a lot of straight line speed for the Ferrari, and the Audi is on the outside but doesn't quite make it. The Ferrari struggling under the brakes. Bruce Logereau actually on his side. No, the Ferrari has a problem.
Just ran wide and has slowed, hasn't it? So Bruce Logereau gains a place, and so also does Christo Jons, and straight away Diego Alessi starts to fade in the Chad Racing Ferrari, so that may well be a car that when it gets to the pit lane goes no further.
Yep, looks like he's having a problem there, and still the two Audis stuck together, and we're back with the leaders. Marco Holzer doing well, keeping it together. Claudia Hurtgen just behind, putting the pressure still since the beginning of the race, and Marco Holzer hasn't done a single mistake, and there she is, so close, getting so close, and yet can't find a way to pass.
Pit window is open. Drivers getting their overalls on. 1 or 2 trying to get as much cool air as they can before they have to clamber on board the cars. And the pit lane is going to be very busy in a moment. Paul van Splinteren then is going to be taking over the leading car, but he's really got the pressure on him in this second stint because Marco Holzer, as Bruce Rouhani rightly says, has not done anything wrong. He's kept the car in the lead of the race. Can Paul van Splinteren bring it home as a winner? Claudia Hurtgen goes through second, half a second adrift, but over these last few laps, look at the way the top 2 have just cleared off a very distant third now. Fred Makovici and Mike Parisi still there in 4th place. What was a 4-car battle for the lead, very much now just 2.
Yes, I think the Aston Martin is a slightly bigger car and maybe demands a little bit more on the tyres.
getting our first pit visitor, incidentally, which is Christian Hohenadel, to give way to Daniel Kalvitz. And I would have thought Christian would have stayed out for a bit longer. But the two race leaders here closing up again. Claudia Hurtgen perhaps having another push here before we get to the pit stops for these two leading cars. You'd desperately like to end her stint as the race leader. And it's not for the want of trying that she's not found a way through as yet. So still together, cresting the rise once more. That section of the circuit good for the BMW, and the Porsche leading the way. Marco Holzer. Again, a quick look in the rear view mirror to see exactly how close the BM is behind, and it's about what, 2-3 lengths if that.
Yeah, 2 lengths. And this is a driver change happening between Breslin and Jones.
That's right. So Krista Jans hanging over to Sean Breslin Senior. Sorry, Sean Breslin Junior, I should say, who takes over that car. And it's going to get increasingly busy. We've got Corvettes rumbling their way in, more Audis and drivers getting ready then. Overalls on, balaclavas on, crash helmets on. Here's the lead battle. And they're coming towards, by the look of it, another yellow flag zone, because we saw a yellow in the background there. Marco Holzer leads the way. Claudia Hurtgen second. We're almost at half-time, not quite. 33 minutes of the hour remain, but we're getting close to the halfway point. Marco Holzer, a very, very good opening stint this. He's never been able to relax. The gap has never been as great as a second, has it? It's been under a second all the way, so he's had huge, huge pressure over the line. Well, Porsche, good in a straight line. The gap goes up to 0.6 of a second. Fred Makovici through in third place, and Diego Alessi has parked the Ferrari, I'm afraid, by the side of the road. That was the car that was third in the earlier race, so we've lost the race one winner. We've lost the third place car from race one, and rejoining is the number 100 Corvette there. You can see now with Bernhard van Oranje at the wheel. Out of the gravel is the BMW there, number 9, which is the car that Martin Matchka put into the gravel. It's a lap down, and Christopher Nygaard in the Ford GT trying to squirm his way past, but the BM isn't really making life terribly easy here. That's not on. That's a lap down, that car, and it shouldn't be really defending in the way that it is.
No, we shouldn't. You see Christopher Nygaard being very, very aggressive like this morning. I think they have a bit of an explication with Marcus Paltala, and Bruce Lorgerou takes the inside and keeps going in front of the other United Audi,
which has just made a pit stop. So now it's Mark Patterson at the wheel, and that's why that sort of slightly slower car was
just coming out of the pits.
Way. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, still drivers getting ready.
Paul van Splunderen needs his spectacles, so he can know exactly where he's going. So he's got his helmet on, don't forget the specs. And here are the two race leaders. The gap was 6/10 at the start of the lap. It's come down just a little now. Claudia Hurtgen, as I suggest, is still determined to lead up to the pit stops, but Marco Holzer has done such a good job so far.
She's closer than ever.
Yeah, that's right. But we've seen her try hard in the past, but she's just not been able to find an answer to the Porsche's speed. Here they come out of Tunnel over the start and finish line. Neither of them pits on this lap. Both of them quicker than their co-drivers, so they stay out for another lap.
Yeah, they're going to try to stay out as long as they can, basically. Try to pull away as much as possible.
And Marcus Palter, in the meantime, is being caught here. Look, by Dino Lenardi. Palter's Porsche, the yellow Corvette is Dino Lenardi. Across the line they go. This is for 6th and 7th places. 5th ahead is the Aston Martin of Thomas Akari. So again, you've got 3 different brands here, all battling as they turn their way through the right-hander at Fangio. And Marcus Palter, conscious of how much closer Dino Lenardi has got over the last couple of laps, but they're also catching the Aston. I just wonder whether Akari has got a problem, because he seems to be losing chunks of time here, and much, much closer now as the Porsche. The next of the Audis comes in. That's Greg Franchi, I think, isn't it, to give way to Stéphane Lemray? Yes, it is. Stéphane Lemray, the very rapid Belgian journalist, who's got a lot of GT racing experience under his belt, gets into the car, and it was 11th when it came into the pit lane, that Audi. This is the battle that's on for 5th place. Thomas Akari still keeping Marcus Palter at bay, and then behind them you've got Dino Lenardi. Aston Martin in Thomas Akari's hands, going pretty well, but when Luc Paillard, the former Caterham racer, takes it over, I'm afraid it may not quite match this pace.
No, the Aston Martin is completely sideways out of that corner in 3rd gear. Very powerful cars, hard to control. Again, I was saying you have to be careful with the throttle.
Now these are the 2 race leaders. We are into the second half of the race. Is there going to be a pit stop for either of them this time? Remember, it's a 10-minute window. The pit window is open for, let's see, Porsche heads towards the end of the lap, comes through, BMW stays out as well, so they're going to do at least one more lap past the pits. The gap still 0.4 of a second.
It's amazing how well she's been able to put the pressure, to keep the pressure on, and how good it is to be able to stay within a second behind a car. I can tell you it's very hard to stay as consistent as that.
Now the BMW, not the Z4, but the B6 as Thomas Akari pits, the green BMW that we saw going into the gravel earlier, is being given a drive-through for crossing the white line at pit exit, now that it's been taken over by Nicholas Meyer-Melnhof. Well, that car being penalised, but we saw a car escape unpenalised in race 1, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I saw that. I didn't say anything because I thought that they would let it go as they did this morning, but no, it did cross the white line. Thomas Zachary out of the Aston Martin.
And that's Luc Paillard's leg getting in.
Not easy trying to fit himself back into the car. It's tight because it's safe. You have a roll loop and a roll cage all around you to make sure the car is completely safe. He puts his belts on, some padding probably to feel himself being comfy. They do the tire pressures around. See, he's being helped to put his drink plugged in as well as the belts. And he's asking if, are you attached? And he said, yes, it's all good. And now he's tightening up his belts. And we're back with the leaders. Still Marco Holzer, still doing a very consistent job, very strong, not a mistake. And behind him, not a mistake either for Claudia Hurtgen. Are they going to pit? No, not yet. 28 minutes to go. They've got another 3 minutes to pit in before the pit closes.
So what's that?